What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Face Mask Fantasy. Going back to back this week. If you happened to catch me yesterday for a stream back in a couple of weeks after a little bit of a work hiatus, I mentioned that my schedule's a little random this week, so I was going to try to find another time to make sure that I had a chance to stream. Talk shop with you guys with the season just a couple of weeks away, so I was able to squeeze something in for today. Gonna do a best ball. Gonna kick off a puppy for anybody who wants to follow along. We'll get to the news and notes first. There's not a ton that happened today, so that'll be brief. But then what I can do for today is kick off this best ball so you guys can see a strategy as it unfolds, real time. I won't know my pick in the draft until the draft kicks off. If you want to try to time it up and participate in this draft with me, of course, Underdog has to be available. Underdog drafts, anyway, have to be available in your state or wherever you currently are. So there is a bit of a delay. I don't know how successful we'll be in timing it up, but if you are around and want to try to participate when I kick things off, by all means, feel free. So it's a one quarterback. If anybody's unfamiliar with best ball, I talk about best ball a lot. I'll get into that, closer to when I actually kick this thing off. But good exercise, good opportunity for you guys to see, like a draft take place. In all likelihood, your draft hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will within, it could be this weekend. It could be sometime next week. I believe the following weekend, the last week of August, is the weekend where the most drafts happen. That's where the most drafts in the country take place, generally speaking, that last week of August, basically, I guess, Labor Day weekend. So getting a couple of exercises in, get a couple practice rounds in. If you are interested in joining this, again, check to see if Underdog is available in your state. Sometimes drafts are available where you are, but not pick'ems, or vice versa, so it all depends. This particular entry, they go from anywhere from like $1 to $100 to even, the biggest contest I've seen is $1,000. This one is just $5. The puppies are always just $5. $5 entries. You can do a slow, or you could do a fast draft. This particular one is, again, $5, 20 seconds per pick, so it happens quickly. It's not even 30 seconds. This particular contest is 20 seconds per pick. 12 teams, 18 rounds, right? Because it's a best ball, so there's no in-season roster management. So it's a longer draft. So you have to be decently familiar with guys that are at the bottom of the barrel from an ADP perspective, which I think a lot of people that follow this channel are up to speed on. So you'll get to see that strategy as it unfolds real time. I can take questions after I go. Again, the news and notes will be short. I can take questions after that. I can try to take questions as the draft is happening, but it's going to be happening quickly, so I might be doing a little bit of multitasking if I am trying to answer questions. So maybe the draft itself will answer some questions for you. It's a half PPR scoring, you start 3 receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex, in addition to just 1 quarterback. So pretty standard, pretty default. This is pretty straight shooting. There's no bonuses available. There's nothing there. There's no personalized scoring for these Underdog contests. Before we get into the draft, of course, again, just a couple of pieces of information to go over. The big one today is Bo Nix. Again, not really a surprise. There was maybe a bit of a competition there for a little bit between Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham for the quarterback competition. Could have also just been smoke and mirrors, which is likely what it was ultimately, because Nix has looked the part. Again, preseason. Take things with a grain of salt. Don't put a whole lot of stock into what you see in the preseason, good or bad. But Nix has looked very good in his opportunities with the first team offense. it was pretty much a formality at this point that Denver would name him their starting quarterback. He's their first-round pick this year, and their future. Hopefully he's able to navigate that situation because obviously Denver's offense still has some proving to do. Courtland Sutton is a rock-solid wide receiver one. Javonte Williams is bouncing back from a bad knee injury that certainly impacted not his availability last year, but his productivity. So Tim Patrick's coming back from a torn ACL. Hopefully he has something left in the tank. We'll see. They traded Jerry Jeudy, so there could, Marvin Mims could have an opportunity. Troy Franklin is the rookie that they drafted. I was like, who? I was like, I know they drafted a wide receiver high this year. It's Troy Franklin. Actually, I believe a reconnection with Bo Nix, if I'm remembering that correctly. So we'll see which, if any, of the young wide receivers are able to emerge. A lot of question marks around this Broncos offense still. I'm warming up to Javonte Williams at his depreciated cost compared to last year. And Courtland Sutton is, I think, a pretty good value. As ADP is around 100 on Underdog Fantasy. So you're not breaking the bank to get a guy who will, at the very least, even in a bad offense, command a lot of targets. So I like Sutton quite a bit for some depth. Bo Nix is maybe a QB3 in Superflex. Honestly, I'll take a wait-and-see approach there, even though he has looked good in the preseason. The regular season is a whole different animal. So could he be my QB3, one of my last picks in a Superflex format? Yeah, maybe. But there may be like another established guy, like a Geno Smith, who I feel maybe a little bit more confident about as far as like a QB3 option in Superflex leagues. So that's the big one from today. Just that Bo Nix was officially named the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Brock Bowers didn't practice with a sore foot. Didn't play in this previous preseason game this past weekend. I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think it's particularly serious. This is probably precaution until we hear more. Obviously, you want to see him return to practice, so maybe he just needs a little extra rest. I think that's about it for today as far as the news and notes. There wasn't a ton to discuss from yesterday to today, so we can keep it moving. I see a few folks in the chat. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. As always, one of the member perks, if you are a member of this channel, I don't see any members in here yet. They may pop in at some point. Their questions will get asked or will get answered, first as a perk of being a member of the channel. They'll also get they'll also get shout outs in the chat. So I will get to every question, but I may not necessarily shout out non-members, which is, you'll still get your question answered, but you just may have to lock in a little bit more. So that I'm discussing or bringing up your specific talking point. But the members will get shout outs. On that same topic, just really quickly before we keep it moving, as it pertains to memberships on the channel this year, I brought this up yesterday, but I will bring it up again for those who may be catching me for the first time this offseason with the season so close. If you've been around the block before, you know the drill. I usually host about 4 streams per week, Tuesday, Thursday, and then my start-sit stream Saturday and Sunday. This year, the Saturday and Sunday start-sit streams will be a members-only chat. It's the lowest membership level that I have available, 99 cents a month. For that, you will get access to all members-only streams, which will be the start-sit streams on Saturday and Sunday this year. You will get my authentic thoughts with a detailed thought process, kind of laid out for your specific scenario. I give a lot of attention, especially to the questions that are deserving of it. Not that every question isn't deserving of a good answer, of a fair answer, but some just stick out as a little bit more, to me, maybe of an obvious call. Others, not so much. You might be between two really good options and you have to only pick one. You will get that authentic experience and answer from me. So to kind of make sure that I give the time required and appropriate to answer those questions, I want to make sure you have that utmost undivided attention. Sometimes the where I open those forums and spaces to everybody, they get a little cluttered. The chats get a little cluttered with a lot of questions. And I might feel like I have to keep it moving. I might miss something. It's just going to be an easier way for me to stay on top of the start-sit questions, because those are the most prevalent and important pieces of your week, right? Ultimately determining who goes into your starting lineup before kickoff. You don't have to do anything now. Obviously, we have the calendar change to September still needs to take place, but I just want to give that heads up for the Saturday and Sunday streams. The Tuesday and Thursday streams will still be available to the general public, will be available to everybody. So waivers and, thoughts ahead of the Thursday night kickoff each week. The second level of membership is I think it's the starter set, which will allow you access to not just the members-only chats, but private chat rooms in my Discord, which will allow you a little bit closer access to me. The rooms, the private rooms in the Discord that I will pay a little bit more attention to during what is going to be, a busy stretch of time for all of us. And then the final level of membership is the All-Pro level. If we get a minimum, obviously comes with all of the perks from the other two levels, but if we're able to get a minimum of 8 at that level, I would love 10, but I'll take a minimum of 8. We will set up on Sleeper a channel redraft league, so you can draft and play against me, other members of the channel, test your wit, test your mettle. There will be a cash prize for the winner of any draft we're able to set up. If I can get 8, that would be spectacular. That would be the minimum size of league I would hope to have. 10 would be great. 12 would be amazing. So just some things to consider as the season quickly approaches. So let me get to some of these questions before I dive into this draft. Again, kicking off a best ball here shortly. $5 entry, 20 seconds per pick, 12 rounds, 12 teams, 18 rounds, 1 quarterback, half PPR scoring. Let's see. There's a selection coming up. You have the 101. You have the first overall selection. So I need to know what the scoring is. The question is, do you go McCaffrey or Hill? I mean, I guess I can answer the question without knowing the scoring. If it's half PPR or standard scoring, I think you have to pick Christian McCaffrey. I think you have to go with McCaffrey. I kind of talked about this a little. I got this same or very similar question on yesterday's stream, probably about an hour in, where I really went in deep on the thought process of taking Christian McCaffrey this year, first overall, versus one of the stud wideouts. Ultimately, in half PPR and certainly in standard, I am firmly on the Christian McCaffrey side, despite the heavy workload last year. 400-plus touches is definitely an alarming number that you want to keep track of, but ultimately, and McCaffrey's one of one, and yes, he has been a victim of the 400-touch club when he was one of the best players in the NFL and the best player for fantasy back in 2019. The very next year, he struggled. He was in and out of the lineup due to injuries, mostly out of the lineup due to injuries. So there is that concern. I think you have to confidently move forward with McCaffrey. In full PPR even, I give like the slightest of nods to McCaffrey. You can make an argument for Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb, assuming CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are able to come to an agreement on a contract, which I think they ultimately will. Like the clock is ticking, but I ultimately think they will come to an agreement. So yeah, there's more of an argument for one of the stud wide receivers in full PPR scoring. The safest bet, which is crazy for me to even feel like is my call here, given the workload that McCaffrey had last year, he's still the safe call at 101 in all scoring formats. So that's where I gotta go. That's where I have to go, especially in half PPR, clearly in standard scoring, and even in full PPR. I think if the situation with CeeDee Lamb was a little bit what had already been handled and he's in camp and he's happy and he's getting his reps and he's doing his normal thing, not that I don't believe in CeeDee regardless of all that stuff, but if his normal routine and the reps that that are really helpful in training camp to get off on a strong, get more likely to get off on on the right foot, as opposed to going in cold with like no reps or very minimal reps with the starting offense. If the situation had been resolved a couple weeks ago, CeeDee in full PPR, yeah, I could see that. The fact that it is still unresolved, I'm not afraid to take him second or third overall, but at first overall, I'll take the safe, sure thing in McCaffrey, even in full PPR scoring. I see, so as far as underdog goes, you have the option here. Let me move my, so you have the option before you enter the draft. I have this up on the screen right next to me. You have the option to choose between 20 seconds and 8 hours per pick. So you can have, before you join a draft, just check to see what it is that you are selecting. This is a fast draft. This is a slow draft. So, yeah, the slow drafts take 2 weeks to fill. So I always join 5 or 6 of those guys and let them just run at their own pace. And then that way I'm making a selection every 45 minutes throughout my day. I don't have a problem. But if you just want to knock out an hour, you just have an hour to kill and you just want to do a draft, like a fast draft, what you're used to, accustomed to most likely from your home league or whatever format you're most comfortable or familiar with, which is usually the fast draft, this is the one you want. So you got so they have this option for you to choose from. Let's see. I got a couple more questions here, and then I will kick off. The draft. Have I drafted live on ESPN before? Yes. ESPN is the worst platform for fantasy football. I don't think it is user-friendly. I think the default settings are strange. I think the default waiver settings are weird. There's a lot of tweaks and adjustments that I feel are necessary on ESPN that are already just taken care of for you. Certainly on Sleeper, even on Yahoo. Sleeper is the best for me as far as the top platforms to play fantasy on. It is a sleek customer experience. The intangibles that they have are superior. There's a trade block. There's a trending list, so you can see the names that are most popular as far as they're trending up for good reasons or they're trending down for bad reasons. There's news and alerts information in there. They send push notifications for more than just scoring. You will get breaking news updates from Sleeper in a way that you will not get from ESPN or Yahoo just for the purpose of signing up for fantasy. So yes, I've used ESPN. It's awful in my opinion. I can't stress enough how much I prefer the Sleeper app. To me, it's the best way to play fantasy in the year 2024. And they are always looking for ways to improve their app. They are always tinkering with and coming up with new ideas. They're not always great. They don't always hit, but I appreciate that that's something that they actively do. So I can't recommend Sleeper enough. And then one more question here, at least that I see so far, and then I will kick the draft off. Cade Otton or the rookie going forward in Dynasty. This is a trade. So I think Ben Sinnott will be fine eventually. I just don't want anything to do with him this year. His usage for Washington has kind of been all over the place during the preseason. And I know, only put so much stock in the preseason, but he was running with the second team offense in the most recent game. He's behind Zach Ertz, who I know is done at this point. He's 34 years old. He's on the way out. Maybe he's not done, but he's longer in the tooth. It feels like he's done because he picked up the injury that wiped out the second half of his season last year. So he may not be done, but to that point, he's going to be in the way of the rookie. So at least for this year. I am fine with rolling the dice on the rookie in place of Otton if you have McBride. if you already have Trey McBride, which is expected to be an established stud in Dynasty for years, and you want to flip a guy that's maybe a little older for a rookie who can you maybe kind of like wait on and watch develop while you just roll McBride and Conklin out there. I like Conklin quite a bit. I have him as a tight end 1 this year for fantasy as a guy that you can get dirt cheap. So I like both of those options. If you want to roll the dice on a rookie tight end in exchange for Otton because you have such good options to rely on for right now and beyond, let's be honest, with McBride, he's going to be, ideally your starter for years. So I'm okay. Then in that situation, I'm okay with that move. Or, I'm okay with that trade. I'm fine with that. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So at this time, you can still ask them, but at this time, I'm going to kick off the draft. I'm going to kick off the best ball. So again, you can see my strategy unfold real time, where my head might go. Obviously, this is just kind of like a practice run, an opportunity for anybody to maybe get an idea of like, okay, this is what's on my mind as far as a round by round like approach. Best ball and straight up redraft are not necessarily the same strategy. It's a little different. The thought process is the same, but it's a little different. But at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? Build the best team we possibly can. So I'll try to identify names that I like regardless of the format, whether it's best ball or redraft, so you guys can get an idea of where my head is at as this unfolds. Okay. Let's kick this off. I'm joining the Puppy 3 on Underdog one more time if anybody wants to try to time it up and join me in this draft. 20 seconds per pick, of course. Underdog drafts have to be available in your state or where you currently are located. If we can time it up, let's make it happen. If not, there will be other opportunities, and then you could just follow along and feel free to either ask questions or give some feedback. If you don't like what I do at a certain point in this draft, I'm all ears. Let me know. We can have an open, honest discussion about any one player or how things go over the course of this draft. Okay, kicking this off now. Let's get it going. We're only waiting for one person, so it is unlikely that anybody's probably going to be able to join me here. Oops, sorry about that. I need to move myself to the corner so that you guys can see not just the list of available players, but the order of our draftees today. All right, I have the 8th overall pick. 1 quarterback, half PPR. So I'm probably honestly looking at one of these running backs here, which I don't mind. But we have to see how this shakes out. So you're probably not going to see this large of a discrepancy between the first running back taken off the board and the second running back taken off the board in your redraft league. But if you play with 3 starting wide receivers, this probably isn't going to look so. This is going to look somewhat similar to how your draft could potentially go, where the wide receivers are getting pushed up the board this year and the running backs are getting pushed down. So let's see how things play out here. From the 108 spot, McCaffrey chalky goes 101. Again, I think that is like the first overall pick this year, despite McCaffrey's workload last year, feels as much of a layup as it has in recent seasons. Recent years, it's been like, yeah, you could talk about 3 or 4 different players going 101 overall. This year, it feels a little bit more definitive that it's McCaffrey. Chalky so far. I said previously, so I'm going to probably end up with one of these running backs here because I think both are a good value, and I get the guy that I actually prefer. If you caught my running back rankings show earlier last month, You may have caught that I have Breece Hall ranked ahead of Bijan Robinson slightly for my RB2 on the season. I get him as the 3rd overall back selected, 8th overall in this draft. I feel very strongly about that. We are going to take him and keep it moving. Now, I have to fill out 3 starting wide receiver spots, and again, there's no in-season roster management. So that 3rd spot is crucial to have as a consistent producer and performer that you can hang your hat on. So now that I have a running back, I took a running back 1st overall. In this particular format, I want a hammer wide receiver. Obviously, be willing to zig where others zag. If anybody listens to John Hansen, the fantasy guru, that's like his favorite line. Don't make sure that you're willing to adapt your strategy. Go in with a plan. Be prepared or willing to tinker with it. So while I want a stud wide receiver with at least 2 of my next 3 picks, if there's a value there, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Like, for example, if Jahmyr Gibbs falls to me at 17, I have no choice but to take him. In my opinion, I have no choice but to take him. If he's not there, then I can take one of these wide receivers. The guy whose ADP I don't understand keeps falling is Mike Evans. I am okay. That person just autoed Gibbs, so that's not going to be the move for me. I have Drake London as a wide receiver 1. I have Deebo Samuel just outside my wide receiver 1 ranking, so he would be an option here. Looks like there's going to be a couple of auto selections here. So there goes Drake London. Yeah, I am okay with Deebo here. I don't have a ton of shares of him. And while he is a little bit hit or miss as far as availability, he's such a big-time playmaker and Swiss Army knife for a good upper echelon 49ers offense. I'll take a high-end performer in what's expected to be a high-end offense here and feel just fine about that. So 12 picks away. So now I'm looking in this range. I've been drafting a lot of Michael Pittman. I like Michael Pittman quite a bit this year at the end of the 3rd round, especially with the high ankle sprain that Josh Downs suffered. And for whatever it's worth, Jelani Woods is back on the shelf again. I got to imagine Pittman gets peppered with targets from Anthony Richardson this year. Put up a big year last year with Gardner Minshew as his starting quarterback. Now he's got Anthony Richardson back. Believe I saw a stat somewhere that Richardson averaged like 0.75 points per drop back or just touch in general last year, which is stellar, which is excellent. I don't remember the source of that information, but it's not my own. Just full disclosure. I like Pittman quite a bit at the end of the 3rd round this year. So that's the range of the players that I'm looking at. I've warmed up more to Tank Dell. I thought his ADP was a little too high, a little too inflated earlier in the offseason. I've reversed course on that a little just because he was so good before the injury. He was so good before the injury took place. Yeah, like 75 targets, and then like week 11, week 12, he went down. He was on pace for like a high-end wide receiver 2 season. It was unbelievable. Yeah. I guess I'm doubling up. I didn't expect Brandon Ayuk to be here. I guess I'm doubling up on potential 49ers, assuming they don't trade him. I'll take Brandon Ayuk in the 3rd round. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Brandon Ayuk at pick 32. Yeah, I'll take that. I apologize. I hope the stream is okay. It looks like it might be buffering a little bit. Hopefully it's okay. Apologies if it's buffering for anybody or a little choppy. Hopefully it's not. If anybody's having any issues with the stream, let me know. And welcome to everybody who's either just joining or has been here for a little while. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. So I'm up here in 3 picks. 1, 2, 3. This is the range. That guy autos Michael Pittman at 38. That's a nice little auto selection to end up with. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Man, I have Debo and Ayuk. Okay. I wouldn't mind Kelce here at all. I feel like I should go back to wide receiver. Oh, wow, he took Travis Etienne. I mean, I will take Travis Kelce, 1, as the second tight end off the board, and 2, in the 4th round. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, I'll take Kelce at the 405. That's perfectly. I'm perfectly fine with that. And again, I see there are some questions that are popping into the chat. I'll try to get to them as I can. I will certainly get to them if you're willing to wait until the end of the draft. I don't want to end up getting caught here. I mean, this is just a $5 entry. But I do want to make sure that I approach this properly so that you guys get, like, this is a little bit of a practice run with drafts happening either this weekend or maybe during the week next week, and a lot are happening next weekend. So I want to make sure that I have like some decent strategy mapped out for you guys, but I will try to answer questions as they come up. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. So I'm 6 picks away. Amari Cooper fell. I like Amari Cooper a lot this year. Getting him at pick 46, just at cost. I like Amari Cooper at cost. All he does is put up, wide receiver 1 seasons. It doesn't seem like the Browns are any longer a factor to potentially trade for Brandon Ayuk. I think it's pretty much just Pittsburgh or he returns to San Francisco. Obviously, 11th hour things can always happen in the NFL. But Cooper should be commanding a massive target share once again this year. And he did quite well even with an underperforming Deshaun Watson before he was lost for the season. Okay, I'm getting my pick of wide receivers here. I will have my pick of the litter. I think Christian Kirk is falling right now because he's missed a little bit of time here with an injury. I don't know how. Won't practice this week. Calf injury described as mild. I mean, that doesn't scare me all that much, I'll be honest. Unless there's something going on with Christian Kirk that I missed. A calf injury, it's not more specific to like what that is. So I'll take a shot on Christian Kirk. That's fine. I do, as far as quarterbacks go, I like Anthony Richardson in this spot a lot. I've taken a fair number of Anthony Richardson shares this year. So I'm kind of diversifying a little bit because Christian Kirk was like a 4th round pick for the longest time, and I just never ended up with him because it was, I like Christian Kirk a lot, but that felt a little high. Now I can get him around cheaper because people are a little worried about this undisclosed calf injury. Like, for me, that's too vague of detail for me to panic on a player for the entire season. So, yeah, I'll take him around cheaper than what he was going for a month ago. So I accomplished what I wanted. I got my stud running back. I got Breece Hall in the first round, and then I went after pass catchers really hard. Debo in the second. Brandon Ayuk fell to pick 32 for me in the third. I love that. Travis Kelce at pick 41. I really like that. And I'm taking a shot on Christian Kirk, 56 overall, despite this vague injury news. So I'll go wherever I want here. I'm not too beholden to any one plan. Wouldn't have minded Walker there. Let's see. I already have a tight end, so I'm not going to grab George Kittle. Do I go with my guy? Do I go with my guy? I might be going with my guy. I'm going with my guy. Those Bears wide receivers are definitely interesting, especially Keenan Allen at this cost. I like quite a bit. But I'll take the dude who is the guaranteed number one target for the Panthers, even though it's a worse offense and worse situation. I'll take the guy, the clear-cut wide receiver one, who should command a ton of targets. I'll take Deontay. Let's see. I'm going to rapid fire some thoughts about some questions that have just popped up into the chat. I can get a little bit more in detail if you want me to, like later on when this is kind of settled down a little bit. Full PPR, again, I think I lean McCaffrey as my 101. It would be CeeDee Lamb if this situation with the contract was behind him and he was in camp and getting reps and everything was normal. That is the determining factor. That is like the slight, again, because you're splitting hairs with high picks, right? Because everybody's a stud. That's the difference for me between McCaffrey and Lamb in full PPR is CeeDee's not in camp yet. Just getting the reps, right? Getting the reps, getting some type of like rhythm going with the offense, which we all know is incredibly important in football. So I'll take McCaffrey in full PPR. Drafting Davante Adams, I'm fine with. Late second, I am okay with. I know he's older. I know the quarterback situation is less than stellar, but Michael Pittman just had a really good year with Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball most of the year. It's not pretty. It's not great, but Adams is a stud, and so I'm willing to I'm still willing to draft. Man, these guys are scooping up all the running backs. Let's see here. I'm just going to take a quarterback that has fallen. I'm just going to take a quarterback that he fell. I'm not crazy about CJ Stroud, but he fell 10 spots from his ADP. Take values where they pop up. I see that there's some of these guys that are drafting now right behind me have taken some running backs. So I'm going to kind of roll the dice here and see if they maybe skip over running backs in favor of some other positions. And maybe I end up with a Ramondre Stevenson at the, in the 8th round with my next pick. Let's see. So I'm fine with drafting Davante Adams late second. He's probably not going to fall to the early third, even in 10-team leagues, but he could fall to that like turn, the 2-3 turn. I'm okay with him there. I'm perfectly fine with him there. Trade Herbert and what's going on, Hunter? Good to see you. Trade Herbert and Hunter Henry or Derrick Henry for Caleb Williams and Jonathan Brooks in a keeper league. So I assume that's Derrick Henry. Let me get Ramondre Stevenson right now. I like Ramondre this year at his depreciated cost. There should be a lot of checkdowns available. This guy's going to auto him, isn't he? No, he took Love. Come on, baby. Oh, I got him. Let's go. I'm not like I don't know if Ramondre is a league winner, but he's so much cheaper than he was last year. He's a good pass catcher. Ezekiel Elliott is gone. I like Antonio Gibson. I do. I always have. But Ramondre should be the dude for this Patriots offense that is got so many question marks in so many areas. Catching lots of dump-offs, whether it's Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. It might not be pretty, but I like ending up with him there. Very happy I got Ramondre Stevenson late 8th round. Or not late, mid 8th round. But I will take that. Let's see. Trade Herbert and Derrick Henry for Caleb Williams and Jonathan Brooks in a keeper league. Yeah. I would need to know like what you can keep those guys for and how much. Or how much, like what the cost is going to be. I certainly like Caleb Williams more than Herbert this year. much more likely to just like from a volume perspective come through, whereas Herbert, there's lots of concerns about the type of offense that they're going to run in LA, run heavy, all that good stuff. I like Derrick Henry, obviously, a lot more than Jonathan Brooks. I guess I would say the gap between Caleb and Herbert is not as big as the gap between Henry and Jonathan Brooks, who I like. I like Jonathan Brooks. But, I mean, Derrick Henry on the Ravens, that's a pretty damn good situation that I'm willing to bank on. I would say the gap between the running backs is larger than the gap between the quarterbacks, and therefore I am, since it's a keeper league, you're playing for just this year. It's just like a it's an enhanced version of redraft keeper. It's not dynasty, Obviously, there's still strategy involved, but, like, ultimately, you're going into a keeper league competing. In a dynasty league, you might go into the season not competing. You're tanking from the jump. In a keeper league, you should be competing from the jump. So I'll take Derrick Henry at the start of the season for this year. For now, that's where I will go. I will go with Derrick Henry. What do we got? I'm 3 picks away here. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm looking in this range. I need to make sure that I star Brock Purdy because there he is. Because I have both Debo and Ayuk. I may not even want to mess around with this. Especially because Caleb Williams just went. So, I am stacking here. I have Debo Samuel and I have Brandon Ayuk. I am reaching down a little bit, about 8 spots, 7, 8 spots or so, to draft Brock Purdy just to get the full stack. This is a situation where you just don't want to get cute. If you have the option, you have a full stack, you have both starting wide receivers, reach down 7 or 8 spots to just secure the quarterback. Just make that happen. And then that way it's almost like your next pick is a little bit easier to sort out because you're not sweating or stressing over, will the quarterback that you need to complete the stack fall to you? You just make it happen. Just make it happen. If this, then that is a good approach to take when it comes to stacking and then therefore prioritizing players based on ADP. If I draft wide receiver A, then that wide receiver's quarterback moves up my rankings automatically. Like you don't do anything crazy, but it puts emphasis on building that stack. And when you have 2 of those guys, it drives that strategy up even more. I'm going to end up with a dude here that I am perfectly fine with, whether it's Zach Moss or Devin Singletary at running back. I could even continue to load up on wide receivers. I think I like Rashid Shaheed a lot, but he's dealing with an injury at the moment. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, like, what am I looking at as far as down the board? Let's get weird. I'm such a Rashid Shaheed stan. Let's get weird. And Derek Carr loves him. I like the, again, you want to target wide receivers a little earlier than usual in best ball. You can kind of fill out running back a little easier, especially when you get a stud in the first round like Breece Hall, which is what I did. You just expect that guy to be your RB1 most weeks and you forget about it. Let's see. The big name streamers one of the big name streamers doesn't like Pittman. Nah, I'm in on Michael Pittman this year, man. Late 3rd round pick. He had a great year. He almost had 200 half PPR points with Gardner Minshew for most of the year last year. Minshew's a solid quarterback. I think it's fair to say Anthony Richardson's ceiling is higher than that. So I am certainly a fan of Michael Pittman, especially at his cost. And it's not a difficult... You have to go out of your way a little bit depending on where you take Michael Pittman, but it's not a ridiculously difficult stack to build either with Anthony Richardson. What's Jaden Daniels' ADP? On this app, his ADP is... he already got drafted. His ADP is like within the top 100. I can tell you that. 94 he went in this draft. So this is a 12-team league. If it's a 10-team league, Jaden Daniels is a 9th-round pick. If it's a 12-team league, Jaden Daniels is an 8th-round pick. The hype is real. I like him as well. I'm certainly the expectations are warranted for Jaden Daniels, but you're going to have to spend a 9th-round pick in a 10-team league and an 8th-round pick in a 12-team league to get Jaden Daniels, which is fair. I don't think that's too expensive. Let me be clear. I don't think that's too expensive for Jaden Daniels. 7th round, yeah, now you're in the range of like Kyler Murray, and I'm just not willing to do that. But 8th round in 12-team or 9th round in 10-team, I'm perfectly fine with Jaden Daniels. If you can get him even a little later than that, in regard, depending on the format, I like that even better. All the decent depth running backs are getting scooped up, but I see a guy I really like. Let me get Trey Benson. And he's mine. I love grabbing rookie running backs whose their value is down because they're behind an established starter, which is fair, but that keeps their price way low, and that makes me want to draft them. I like Trey Benson a lot this year. I just got him with pick 128 in this draft. James Conner is awesome. He is rock solid, he is steady, and he delivers when he's on the field, but he misses 3 or 4 games a season, almost every season of his career. Trey Benson is a lock to start 3 games if that trend continues, and he should start at least a couple of them. When those weeks happen, a late 11th round pick in 12-team leagues, a 12th round pick in 10-team leagues, at that cost, if Trey Benson starts 3 games for you, he's going to be in your lineup 3 times, and you can expect like an RB2 performance. That is worth it. That is worth that price. 100%. This tournament is a puppy. It's a puppy 3. I think it's like 75% full at this point. Just a $5 entry. This is not Best Ball Mania. I have maybe, I don't know, between 7 and 10 entries in Best Ball Mania, so that's obviously the big contest. That's the flagship contest that Underdog runs every offseason, where the stakes are a little higher. Again, $25 entry. What am I doing down here, by the way? Who am I taking? All of the running backs are dried up. I don't really want Nick Chubb. I hate that I have to say that, but I don't really want Nick Chubb. The timeline is murky. It is unclear, and it doesn't feel good after how devastating the injury was last year. I am going to pass on that. I'm going to go with a wide receiver who I haven't drafted for a while, but I like quite a bit in Darnell Mooney. I don't know that Mooney is like that great, but he's got the best quarterback situation of his career, and he should be in line for regular work, especially after Rondale Moore was lost for the season with an injury. So I'll take Mooney there. 11 picks to go. I see one more from one more question here, or a comment. Kelsey and Worthy. So, not trying to sound like, I just want to have an honest discussion about this. Not trying to be snippy or offensive in any way. Kelsey and Worthy would not be like a stack. I need Mahomes for that to be a stack. They're both really good options with good ADPs on a great offense, which should be a great offense, and I like Worthy quite a bit, but I would have needed Mahomes for the actual stack. If I had ended up with Mahomes, I probably would have had to take him 3rd round, and then Kelsey 4th round, and then I could take Worthy, and then I have a full Chiefs stack, and that's pretty damn good. But I would have needed Mahomes for that to actually have, for the stack to have actually been a thing. Let me get Jalen right here. I don't mind the roll of the dice on some of these running backs. I will tell you right now, I don't have a lot of shares of Ray Davis, but keep an eye on this guy. I think he's going to get a ton of goal line or red zone, inside the 10-yard line type of work. And he's going to be a touchdown vulture for James Cook, and maybe not Josh Allen, but certainly James Cook. In fact, how likely is it? Can I how can I wait on him? Can I wait on him? Can I take a shot? No. The running backs are starting to they're starting to dry up a little bit, and I only have 3 of them. So I'm just gonna go get a guy that I like, a guy that I believe in. Like, some of these wide receivers are interesting, but Downs has a high ankle sprain. I'm not crazy about that. Xavier's a rookie. We'll see. He should be more talented than almost anything that Carolina had last year. Adam Thielen's an interesting. Pearsall's been injured, hasn't really had a ton of opportunities in camp, so not feeling Ricky Pearsall for his rookie year. There goes Adam Thielen. I like Jalen Polk is the trendy Patriots wide receiver that everybody likes. I kind of think I prefer Demario Douglas, who kind of did it last year. Did it a little bit last year anyway. He didn't score a touchdown, but that's because the Patriots offense isn't that good. He still ended up with over 500 yards receiving on almost 50 catches. Like, that's decent production. I don't mind that guy. I mean, honestly, I'll take Hunter Henry. That's the Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely. Some of these depth tight ends I really like. I don't know where to go here, actually. Should I roll the dice on J.K. Dobbins? I'm going to roll the dice on J.K. Dobbins. He's fallen about 15 picks below his ADP. He might not be anything at this point in his career, but let's take some shots here and there, the 2 tight ends that I actually really like, they just literally went 2 picks right, the 2 picks just before my pick, they all go. So now I have to end up with like a we'll see running back. These 2 guys, man, I'm telling you, Ty Conklin, Hunter Henry. If you're looking for a bargain option at tight end, those are the guys. Hunter Henry, Ty Conklin. I like Luke Musgrave. I like Dawson Knox as a huge punt play. So much turnover in the Bills' offense this year. I like Dawson Knox quite a bit to kind of reemerge as a red zone threat for the Bills. And Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is not expensive at all, and it's pretty obvious that the Ravens need to get him on the field as often as they possibly can. I think his ADP is way too low. I would be happy to end up with Isaiah Likely actually having already drafted Kelsey as my tight end 1. We're in the 15th round. So we'll do a couple of things. One, this is coming to an end here within the next couple of rounds. It's an 18-round draft, so we've got 4 more rounds here to finish off. I'm coming up here quickly in the 15th round, about 4 picks away. Isaiah Likely already got taken. Man, I gotta grab a tight end too at some point. There goes Baker. This is a wide receiver I like quite a bit. I could take a Greg Dortch right here. Kyler seems to like him. Kyler seems to like Greg Dortch. I don't know that there's necessarily any competition for him in the slot. Obviously, Marvin Harrison will go there sometimes, but he's also just going to be on the perimeter, and when that's the case, the Dortch will be in the slot. Kyler seems to like Greg Dortch. He's coming into the season healthy. Obviously, wasn't the case for him last year. I think Dortch could pay off as some wide receiver depth. He's probably not going to be a hold in 10-team drafts this year, but I mean, in favorable matchups, in spot starts, if there's a heavy bye week situation that you have and there's a favorable matchup, like a Greg Dortch, keep an eye on him. Where's Bryce Young? I'm not crazy about Bryce Young, but I'm just going to star him because I drafted Deontay Johnson. So if I can get him as my QB3. Again, it's a 1-quarterback league. I never recommend drafting more than 1 quarterback in your redraft league. But in best ball, where there's no in-season roster management, I'll draft 3 quarterbacks because the rosters are large and you need the flexibility to make it through a season without being able to do waivers, ads, drops, trades, anything like that. So that's where it makes sense to draft 2 or 3 quarterbacks. Not in your straight-up redraft league. Let's see here. I will first grab Jonnu. I will first grab Jonnu because I'm running out of tight end options as far as depth plays. Played pretty well last year for Atlanta. Goes to a better offense in Miami. There's not going to be a lot of targets available to him, but at least he is the guy at tight end, and it should be a good offense. And I'm not really relying on him. Of course, I drafted 2 tight ends with the same bye week. Good job. Good job to me. Kidding, of course. That's silly of me, but well, it's a decent alternative option, I guess, here and there. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you, dude. Thanks for stopping in. I want to end my draft with 2 guys, which probably won't happen, being 8 picks away. I like Justice Hill a lot. Keep Justice Hill. I'm telling y'all, keep Justice Hill in mind. I might not get him here. Because I'm 8 picks away, and he's like 4 picks from the top of the draft. Keep Justice Hill in mind for like a deep roll of the dice at running back. He's a solid producer on a per-touch basis. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, both gone from Baltimore. Obviously, Derrick Henry is there to be the stud. There he goes. There goes Justice Hill. Derrick Henry is there to be the stud, but Justice Hill should be the backup, and they're going to look to keep Derrick Henry fresh. This is a Ravens team with Super Bowl aspirations. They're not going to run Derrick Henry into the ground in the regular season. We just, at least on paper, you can comfortably not expect that to happen. And I'm going to cue Bryce Young here before I forget, because I drafted Deontay Johnson, so I want that stack and I think a super dirt cheap QB3 that should be a little bit better in his sophomore season, as long as he doesn't get scooped up by anybody that's drafting right ahead of me right here. Keep Justice Hill in mind. I did a short on him. If you want to check my short playlists out, or the shorts playlist out on my channel, I think he's the top video there. If you want to check that out, my thoughts on Justice Hill and why I like him this year. I think they're going to... Derrick Henry should be drafted like an RB1. I think he will perform like an RB1. There's Bryce Young. I get to stack him up with Deontay Johnson. I feel fine about that. And I will get, I guess, a running back to finish off this draft because I only have 5 of them. We'll see who's here in 7 picks that I want to take a chance on. But yeah, I like Justice Hill quite a bit as some depth at running back this year. 28 catches last year in a limited role. Ravens don't really throw the ball to running backs, and he still ended up with 28 catches. That's pretty good. I think Justice Hill will mix in a decent amount this year. I think he's worthy of like one of the last spots on your bench, especially if you draft Derrick Henry. I would find a way, unless there's like an obvious dude at the end of the draft where you're like, I have no choice, I have to take this guy. Find a way to get Justice Hill on your roster, especially if you draft Derrick Henry in your redraft leagues this year. I think he's going to be good depth. He might end up being a waiver wire casualty early on, but at least have him as an insurance policy for a couple of weeks. Who am I taking here? I'm not sure how I feel about any one of these guys. Ooh, here's a guy I like. I like Roschon. Dirt cheap, 18th round, flying way under the radar. 34 catches last year in a limited role on a bad Bears offense. I think he can improve on those types of numbers, especially if Caleb Williams reaches the expectations that we all expect of him, even if they're modestly met. I think Roschon going like 200-plus picks in the draft when Chicago didn't really add anybody to their backfield outside. They let who was it from last year walk. I know they brought in DeAndre Swift, but they had somebody else in front of Roschon and Khalil Herbert as well last year. It wasn't Donta Foreman. It was somebody else. Was it just Donta Foreman? There was somebody there that was ahead of him on the depth chart. DeAndre Swift is established, but only had like an RB2 season for the Eagles last year, who are a better offense. I think Roschon can come in and, I don't know, I just expect him to improve after his rookie year. But that'll do it for my draft. We'll look at the board. And we can assess the situation. You guys can tell me if you like my team, if you like anybody else's team a little bit more, what anybody did in particular in the draft. We can get into that a little bit. And if anybody has other questions, of course, can get into those as well. You have the 6th pick tomorrow, Greg. In half PPR, I guess it depends on, I know this sounds cliche, but it just kind of depends on who's available there. Are the running backs going to go early? Are Bijan, Breece, and is McCaffrey? I assume McCaffrey's not lasting until pick 6 in any format. But is Breece going to be off the board? Is Bijan going to be off the board? Then you take your favorite wide receiver there. That could be Jamar Chase. It could be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know that I believe in Justin Jefferson. I think he's quarterback proof. I do. Let me see if I can find this puppy that I just completed. Is it this one? I've done more entries than that. Maybe they're all slow. Maybe they're all slow drafts. That's why. Yep. But this is it. Let me see if I can find the board. There it is. See if I can scroll down. I blew it up in another window. Okay. I know it let me look. It let me do this before, where I could share the whole draft. That's really annoying. While I'm trying to figure this out, I will answer. Greg, I will finish my thought on your question. If Breece and Bijan are gone, because McCaffrey will be gone at 101, if Breece and Bijan are also gone, then I would probably take. I would take Jamar Chase if he was there. I would take Justin Jefferson if he was there. I would take Amon-Ra St. Brown if he was there, probably in that order. If the running backs are available, then I would probably take the running backs in redraft. I would take the running backs over the receivers, especially Breece. But if they're both gone, which I would think in a typical standard redraft league, I think the running backs will just naturally go higher because they always do. I would take one of those stud wide receivers. And probably in order, I would go Jamar Chase, who I know has got his own contract issues. I got to imagine he plays. He's 2 years away from an extension. If he wants that money, he has to keep performing. And I know that sounds crazy to say because it's Jamar Chase. I feel like we've already seen enough from him, but he has to keep doing it if he wants the big payday. He's 2 years away from the contract extension conversation, not one. So he has to go out there. I don't see a situation where I'm too worried about Jamar Chase ultimately starting this year. So I would still put Jamar Chase like third among wide receivers. Tyreek and CD still ahead of him. 4th overall when you include McCaffrey. In standard like half PPR redraft leagues, you can certainly make the argument and probably should that the running back should be ahead of him. So yeah, like 6th overall, I think that's a great spot for Jamar Chase. That's I think where you go. That is I think where you go. If Breece and Bijan are there, I would take Breece. If Bijan and if it's between Bijan and Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, you could argue Bijan. But if the running backs are gone, I would probably take Jamar Chase. That's where I would go with the 6th pick in half PPR. Draft strategy can always be best player available, but just keep in mind you need to be go in with a plan. This is everybody. Go in with a plan. Be prepared to pivot. Go in with a plan. Only stick to that plan when you don't have to reach to make that plan work, which I know sounds simple, but when you get in the moment and there's like maybe you're between two guys at a spot that you weren't anticipating that selection, be prepared to pivot. Be prepared to move off of what you thought you were going to do going into the draft. So yes, best player available, of course, if it works out that way. Go in with a plan, be prepared to pivot. I still can't get this whole draft to show up. This is annoying. Here, give me 1 second. Can I? I just want to add. I just want people to be able to see the full board so that you can, take it all in for yourselves. Let's see. Nah, I don't know why I can't. I don't know why I can't share it. That's so frustrating. Yeah, I know this is completed. I want to be able to. I did the pop out and it won't let me show it. All right, well, I guess I can scroll here. Let me move myself around. I can scroll this way, I suppose. It's less than ideal. Let's see. I got a couple more questions. So before we do any breakdowns, I can answer those. We got a dynasty question. Love dynasty questions. Let's see. You were sent Davante Adams for Jayden Reed. You'd have to be all in on this year, which it looks like you are. It looks like you are all in on this year. And you have Kelce at tight end. I mean, you're getting probably a one-year rental in Davante Adams, right? Like, starting in 2025, Jayden Reed is going to be more valuable than Davante Adams. Maybe for this specific year, Davante Adams is more valuable than Jayden Reed, but maybe as soon as 2025, unless Adams, gets traded to a great situation and rediscovers the fountain of youth, you're probably only looking at just this year for him. At which point, Jayden Reed will be the more valuable player. That being said, you are all in on this year. With that roster, with that squad, you're all in on this year. So if you're just thinking, championship or bust, which, that's where you want to be, right? If you're not tanking for the first overall pick, you don't want to be in the middle in a dynasty league. You want to be at the top. That team, I would assume, is at the top. So for just this year, Davante Adams is more valuable to you. I would take that trade. I would accept Davante Adams for Jayden Reed. Starting next year, Jayden Reed's probably going to be more valuable. Adams will be 31 at this point. If he's still on the Raiders, that's probably, maybe they end up with a high pick this year if they're not good and they get a top flight quarterback next year, whoever that may be. But I would roll the dice on this year, which is I would rather have Adams than Reed. Reed will probably start to be more valuable than Adams in 2025. But if you are competing for a championship this year, which I would assume you are with that roster, I would take Adams. I would take Adams. Go all in. Win a championship. Value lasts for a certain number of years. A championship lasts forever. Right? So hopefully that helps. Good squad. Just finished the Puppy 3. Nice. Let's see. Okay, you went heavy on quarterback, which is fine. Allen and Burrow, that's fine. But you are going to be sandbagging like a top 80 selection every week since it's just one quarterback. But it's fine to have like two stud options. What I would not have done was draft Fields. I get what you're doing, like roll of the dice, like cheap late roll of the dice, and his upside could be through the roof just as a runner. But in best ball, if I draft two stud quarterbacks high, I tend not to take a QB3 because I invested significant capital in a one-start position, which is quarterback and tight end. I'll take two frontline guys. In that scenario, I'd leave it at that. So that would be the only difference I would make. Running backs look solid. Henry, I like ETN a lot, especially at cost this year. Like, you can get him in the 4th round, at least in best ball. He's probably going to go higher than that in redraft leagues, but in best ball, he's like a 4th round pick. I like ETN quite a bit at that cost. Mixon, I like, should be locked into a big role on a good offense in Houston. I like Zach Moss at cost. There are some, Chase Brown is getting a lot of the attention right now, and deservedly so. He looks like he's going to be a big-time player. He's going to add some pop to this Bengals offense, but he's probably not going to be a bell cow. They've signed Zach Moss for a reason, so at his price, I like Moss quite a bit. Brian Robinson and Jalen Wright to fill it out. That's fine. Yeah, wide receiver is a little weak. Garrett Wilson's a stud. Ridley is I like Ridley at his cost, 5th round. That's not too expensive for a guy who I think can still have a strong wide receiver 2 season in Calvin Ridley. Yeah, the wide receiver depth gives me a little bit of pause. Tight end is, we'll see. Cade Otton did put up some tight end 1 performances, like some overall tight end 1 performances to end the season last year. So if he can keep that train rolling, great. I'm not crazy. Some people will tell you're going to get a lot of different opinions on TJ Hawkinson this year, given his situation. He ripped up his knee to end the season last year. He's probably not going to be ready for week 1. He might not be ready for the first few weeks of the season. I'm ultimately fading him. The knee injury was significant. He didn't just tear his ACL. I believe TJ Hawkinson also suffered an LCL injury last year when he picked up the knee, and it was late. It was like week 16. It was late in the season when that happened. I think he had to wait into 2024 to get surgery because I think the swelling had to come down on the knee, so his timeline got pushed back to return because they couldn't do the surgery right away. Yeah, if TJ Hawkinson comes back in week 11, week 12, and is like your tight end 1 to get you through the stretch run and the fantasy playoffs, then amazing. But you have to get there first in best ball. You have to get there first. Getting there is more than half the battle. It's 80% of the battle. Your awesome high-scoring team that you are expecting to wait on, and maybe and not that your whole team is like this, but just like a Hawkinson type of name as an example. These guys that you're waiting on for maybe the first 7-8 weeks of the season in best ball, that hurts. Those guaranteed zeros hurt. You're not getting anything out of a guy that you're selecting in the first 12, 13 rounds. Maybe it's a low risk because you can get him 120 picks into a draft, but I know that he's going to be a zero probably through week 7 or so. And so that's the tough sell for me for TJ Hawkinson in best ball. If you want to take a shot, if you want to keep the long view in redraft and you can stream other tight ends over the course of the season, that's a little bit more viable. Just in general, though, I'm just worried about TJ Hawkinson's timeline. The injury he suffered was not a good one, and at the time that it happened last year, I worry about Hawk. I do. I worry about Hawkinson. I assume he should be fine for 2025, but for 2024, I'm not really feeling TJ Hawkinson right now. I'll eat my words if it's week 10 and he comes back and he's fully healthy and he's crushing it. but I'm probably ultimately out on TJ Hawkinson this year. I get the appeal because of his cost, but the other side of that coin is there's a reason he's going so late. There's a lot of unknown about his availability, so yeah. So, but, see what happens. Garrett Wilson's a stud. Calvin Ridley has a chance to be a good wide receiver, too. If your running backs carry you, then your running backs and you have strong options at quarterback. If those guys carry you, then the wide receiver depth might not matter all that much. There's some decent guys at the back end there that are at least they're savvy veterans, So just see what happens. I prefer to address wide receiver a little I prefer to have a little more emphasis on wide receiver in best ball because you have to start 3 of them. So I do prioritize wide receiver a little bit more. A lot of people do, to be honest. You prioritize wide receiver a little bit more, but the counter to that, the flip side of that is running backs are a crazy, insane value. So if you load up on running backs, there's a good chance you're going to have a lot of really strong options available to you that could maybe serve as like a counterweight if you don't prioritize wide receiver. But because you have to start that 3rd wide receiver in best ball, at least on Underdog, they leapfrog. Like when you're between like a wide receiver 2 and a running back 2, it's like the general consensus is take the wide receiver. But that's okay. That's why we practice these. And you never know. That strategy could completely go to shit, and your strategy could be what advances you to the knockout rounds. That's the beauty of it. You never know. You never know what could happen. So with that, let's take a look at my squad that I just selected. Let's see if I can I highlight this? I can't. So I'm the 8th overall pick. I started with Breece Hall. And then I went Debo, Ayuk. So I took the San Francisco 49ers in the 2nd and 3rd round. We'll see if, assuming Ayuk is still a 49er, week 1, which I still think he will be. So I stacked up the 49ers wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk falling in the 3rd round. I will take that all day, by the way. I'll also take Travis Kelce in the 4th round. I'm happy to end up with him there. I took Christian Kirk over guys like Xavier Worthy, Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin. Again, the reason being I think Christian Kirk will be the top wideout and potential just pass catcher in general for the Jaguars, whereas Worthy might be the team's 2nd or 3rd option most weeks. Jaden Reed could be the wide receiver 1 for the Packers some weeks, but he could be the wide receiver 3 other weeks. Chris Godwin is probably regularly the wide receiver 2 for Tampa Bay, even though he's a very strong wide receiver 2. Mike Evans is still that wide receiver 1. I'm identifying a team's wide receiver 1, going for the guys who I think are going to deliver and come through with volume. That's why I picked Christian Kirk over those types of wide receivers. I went back again, same thought process. I took Deontay Johnson, whose ADP is lower than guys like Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, the Bears wide receivers. But I took Deontay over those guys because I know for a fact that Deontay Johnson will be the team's wide receiver 1 with all due respect to Adam Thielen. Whereas Keenan Allen might be the wide receiver 1 some weeks. DJ Moore is probably the wide receiver 1 most weeks. Rome Odunze might mix in there and have his weeks as well. But it's way more cluttered. Whereas the pecking order in Carolina, it's way more clear-cut. It's Deontay Johnson and then probably Adam Thielen. Maybe they flip-flop here and there, but Deontay at this point in his stage of his career, we expect to be the team's wide receiver 1. And then after that, there's a lot of question marks. So give me what I think makes the most sense as far as like identifying a team's clear-cut wide receiver 1, even on bad offenses. Players perform on bad offenses just like they perform on good offenses. They perform at a higher rate and with more frequency and efficiency, most likely, than on good offenses. But players come through on bad offenses as well. I took Stroud in the 7th round, not because I really wanted him, but he fell 10 spots. He fell 10 picks below his ADP, so I said, screw it. There's my QB1. I'll take a value. I'll just take a value. Same thing happened with Ramondre Stevenson. two things here. I had only one running back. I took Breece Hall in the first round. I didn't have another running back at that point yet. I like Ramondre Stevenson as an RB2 this year. He's like 40 picks cheaper than he was last year, and Ezekiel Elliott's not on New England anymore. Antonio Gibson is, but Ezekiel Elliott, I guess, is more accomplished at this point. Not I guess. He's older, but he's more accomplished than Antonio Gibson. As much as I like Antonio Gibson, there's just less to go off of as far as what we can expect from him. So I think opportunities, basically what I'm saying is I think Ramondre Stevenson's competition got a little worse this offseason. Even an old Ezekiel Elliott, he usurped like a decent amount of production when Ramondre was on the field. That's not an issue anymore. And now he's a lot cheaper. I expect him to catch a bunch of dump-off passes. I like Ramondre in the 8th round. I grabbed Brock Purdy about 8 or 9 spots above his ADP because I grabbed Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Stack, stack, stack it up. Stack it up. Stack, stack, stack it up. And go out of your way. The more guys that you draft, specifically wide receivers or pass catchers in general, if you draft one dude on a team, if you draft a stud wide receiver, his quarterback needs to move up your rankings around. If you draft 2 dudes from the same team, that quarterback needs to move up like 2 rounds. Forget the ADP at that point. Load up on the stack. Commit to the stack. What's going on, Alex? Good to see you, man. This would not be the millions, but I would take whatever the big prize money is for any of the puppy contests. But appreciate you coming in and hanging out. I grabbed Rashid Shaheed in the 10th round. This was like a little bit of like, I'm kind of swinging for the fences here a little bit. Austin Eckler, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss are probably all better, safer picks, especially because I could have used a 3rd running back. But I'll take a guy who 100 picks into a draft, he's like a dart throw. He's not a dart throw. From the perspective of he's like a guy with an ADP south of 100 who could give you 12 to 15 points any given week just by catching one big bomb, which he does 4 or 5 times a year. And Derek Carr just likes throwing him the ball. That was obvious last year. I do like Eckler, I do like Singletary, and I like Moss at their cost. But I decided to switch it up a little bit. And it worked out because there's another running back that was available in the 11th round who I was very happy to end up with. That's Trey Benson. Again, rookie running backs whose cost is depreciated, is down because they're behind a veteran, those are guys you want to target. You want to identify and target those guys. Trey Benson fits the bill this year. James Conner is a stud when he plays, but he misses 3 or 4 games a year. If Trey Benson starts 3 or 4 games a year, I guarantee you he's going to outperform an ADP of like 125. Trey Benson just needs to start 3 games this year to pay off at an 11th round ADP. And based on James Conner's history, Trey Benson should start 3 games. He should start 3 games. So I was very happy to end up with him. Back to wide receiver in the 12th round, I took Darnell Mooney, who, 130 picks into a draft I feel good about. He should be a starter for Atlanta. Much better passing attack this year with Kirk Cousins. And for what it's worth, Rondale Moore unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury, so they're not going to be able to rely on him for receiver depth this year. I think that vaults Darnell Mooney even a little bit more as far as reliability potential. So I'll take Darnell Mooney as like a wide receiver 6 or wide receiver 7 in the 12th round. I reached by about, maybe not, I don't know if it's a reach, but like I went about 4 or 5 or 6 spots above ADP to grab Ray Davis, just depth running back, rookie guy that I think the Bills are going to utilize in the red zone this year inside the 10-yard line. James Cook just hasn't done a lot in the touchdown scoring department. Not only does he have Josh Allen to contend with, who is like the ultimate quarterback touchdown vulture, but now he's got Ray Davis to deal with as well, who the team seems to like to utilize inside the red zone. I think he's going to get goal line opportunities. Like 150 picks into a draft, if Ray Davis just falls into the end zone 4 times this year from the 1-yard line, if he just falls in, that's a value. And on this Bills offense, that doesn't seem to like to utilize James Cook at the goal line, I like Ray Davis 150 picks into a draft. I grabbed J.K. Dobbins again, not because I really want J.K. Dobbins, but I grabbed him in the 14th round. He had fallen 15 picks below his ADP, so why not? 15th round, so now you're talking about the last round, generally speaking, of 10 and 12 league drafts. So these are the guys that you're probably looking at as like your last couple of picks in all likelihood. I took Greg Dortch, a guy who I think is going to start in the slot for the Arizona Cardinals. Marvin Harrison will go into the slot here and there for matchup purposes, but he's going to mostly line up outside. I don't think there's a ton of competition for Greg Dortch for targets in the slot. And Kyler Murray just seems to like the guy. Sometimes you just throw the stats out and the data and the analytics, which I'm a big fan of. I like crunching numbers and taking a look at all that stuff. But sometimes you just need to take a bird's eye view and just be like, what are the vibes? And the vibes seem to be that Kyler Murray just likes Greg Dortch, likes throwing him the ball. It seems like they have a good off-field relationship. 175 picks into a draft. I will take a dude who gets his starting quarterback back from week 1 right away from the jump this year, something that Arizona did not have last year. I took Jonnu Smith as a tight end 2 behind Kelsey. I shouldn't have done that because they both have the same bye week, but that's what I ended up doing. Bryce Young I grabbed as a QB3 strictly in best ball where I can't tinker with the roster. And I have Deontay Johnson, so another little stack. And I finished it off with Roschon Johnson, who is, I think, a guy who, he's the cheapest of the Chicago Bears running backs. And they're going to be better this year with Caleb Williams. I'm willing to roll the dice on that. 200 picks into a draft. So, we'll see. I think the team is decent. But we'll see what happens. That's the beauty of the game, right? We'll let week 1 take place and let everything play out and let the chips fall where they may. I think that's it. I just reviewed my team. If anybody has any thoughts, feel free to share them. Or if you are catching this late, feel free to drop a comment on the stream if you have any thoughts, what you maybe liked about the draft that I did, maybe anything you didn't like about the draft that I did. I will timestamp this as well to make it a little easier to find the start of the best ball draft because went over some news and notes and took some questions prior to kicking this off. But I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think I will be wrapping this up here shortly. We'll return next week. We can do another one of these exercises and happy to just talk shop on the state of things coming out of the final week of preseason and with pretty much next week is pretty much the last week without NFL football until February. So it's go time. It's damn near go time. If anybody needs anything as far as their drafts, if it's happening this weekend, you can ask a comment or you can leave a comment in the form of a question, or I guess ask a question in the form of a comment on any of the recent videos or live streams on the channel. I'll try to get to it, but I will come back. We can do more best ball draft exercises next week, probably when the vast majority of drafts are taking place. So be on the lookout for a few more live streams as we move closer to the season. I'll at least be doing Tuesday, Thursday streams, and then we'll be off and running with 4 streams a week. 4 streams a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday during the season. Again, the Saturday, Sunday start-sit streams this year will be member-only chats. So it's the lowest form. It's the lowest level of memberships available on the channel, just 99 cents a month, and you will get authentic, fairly, I think, thought-out analysis about your specific situation. If you're between 2 difficult decisions to make for your starting lineup on Saturday and Sunday, you will get my undivided attention in that situation, and it will allow me to kind of avoid missing anybody that can not often, but can sometimes happen when I just open those chats to the general public. So 99 cents a month, you'll get, that's 8 start-sit streams, anywhere from 6 to 8 start-sit streams a month. So I think it's worth its weight. I do. And then there are other membership levels as well if you are interested. E111, hey, or 111. I'll do whatever. I'll say it however you prefer to say it. Thanks for becoming a member, man. There we go. Appreciate that very much. And at the highest level. So, yeah, not only do you get the emojis to mess around with, but you are now eligible to be, we're getting the ball rolling on potentially. We could start a channel redraft league on Sleeper that I would, of course, commission. And if we can get a minimum of 8 people to join at the all-pro level, we'll kick that off. I will commission the league, and there would be a cash prize. It wouldn't be huge, but you could, you would get a little bit of cash back for winning the league. Low stakes. Your buy-in would, of course, be the membership. We need 8 members at the all-pro level for that to kick off. The winner would get a cash prize for sure. We'll see if we can make that happen before the season actually kicks off. But there's no pressure. If it doesn't happen, there are other ways that you can get access to me to make the most of those memberships. You will get a little bit more authentic access to me. We can set up one-on-one conversations to go over the status of your league. Discord is the most useful tool that I have for that, so I can get anybody who needs a Discord link. I can get that to you. I'll throw it in the description of this live stream, so be on the lookout for that. You will be able to be added to members' channels as well, exclusive member channels in the Discord, so you'll get a little bit more undivided attention from me over there as well. So appreciate it, E. Thank you so much for joining as a member. Let's have a hell of a season. You know what I mean? Let's have a hell of a season. And, of course, you get the member shout-outs, so you know that you'll get the acknowledgement. I will address you specifically if you have a question as a member of the channel. So appreciate the support. Very kind. Hopefully we can get a league put together. That would be fun. And there would be a prize. It wouldn't be huge, but there would be a prize. Just throwing it out there for maybe anybody who sees this who sees this or coming in late. I don't see, like I said, I don't see anything else. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, that's my thought process here. Like, I know that I'm asking for, I'm putting the start-sit streams this year behind a small paywall, 99 cents a month, but you will get, I will give you in-depth thoughts on your specific situation. And that will allow me to kind of keep things in line. I won't be jumping around finding members in a diluted chat. I think it'll go a little bit smoother, a little bit easier. And you'll continue to get my thoughts about any one specific situation that you have any given week. So I think that does it for this evening. If there aren't any other questions, again, hit me with if you have a question or a comment or anything in the form of a comment on the stream or any of my recent videos. Happy to talk shop or have any other thoughts that you may have going into your drafts. But that'll do it for this evening. I will be around in Discord. Again, I think I need to drop that link in the description of this live stream. So be on the lookout for that if you are not in the Discord and would like to join it. There are also members-only channels that you will get access to if you join as a member. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Best of luck if you have your draft this week. We can talk shop about that next week as well when I think the majority of drafts are kicking off. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.